To worry is normal, but when worry becomes excessive, when you are just afraid and you don't know the reason why you are just afraid, when it becomes excessive, then we say those are early warning signs of poor mental health state. When your mood changes extremely. Of course, it is good for moods to change. When somebody misplaced something that is very important to them, of course, it is normal for such a person's mood to change. When somebody lost a loved one, it is very normal for such person's mood to change. But when somebody mood changes now and then, extreme mood change is also a sign of a poor mental health state. Confused thinking or problem concentrating and learning. When the only thing you can think about in 24 hours is problem, and you find it difficult to actually concentrate in learning, then there is a problem somewhere that we need to look at. Prolonged or strong feeling of irritability or anger. You just discover that you hate doing something, you hate somebody, you hate going into a particular place. Irritation, unnecessary irritation. Then those are warning signs for poor mental health state. Multiple physical alignment without obvious causes. I mean, ailments without obvious causes. You're just feeling sick. You're just feeling sick. And doctor has carried out several tests on you. He said there is nothing. I think maybe they will just tell you that maybe you just need. So when you become ill unnecessarily without obvious cause, it might be a sign of poor mental health issue. Then when you start abusing substance, overuse of a substance, alcohol or drugs, these are signs of poor mental health state. These are signs of poor mental health state. Now, these are continuation of other signs, difficulty understanding. I've talked about this earlier. When it's difficult for you to understand what people are saying, it's difficult for you to relate with people, to collaborate with people at work, in a place of work or at home. When it's difficult for you to relate, it's a sign. When you start considering suicide, when you start thinking about killing yourself, you start thinking about ending your own life, it's a sign of poor mental health. When sleeping, when there is a change in your sleeping habit. Now, you as a person, you sleep a lot and suddenly you find it difficult to sleep. There is a change in your sleeping habit. Or you that you sleep less and suddenly you're not sleeping for a longer hours, a longer time. When there is change in that sleeping habit, it's called for concern. When there is change in your eating also, it is called for concern, because a lot of people, you see them and you are telling yourself that this guy is eating a lot nowadays, this lady is eating a lot nowadays. When there is a shift in eating habits, it's a sign of a poor mental health. So when there is also difficulty in perceiving reality, when there is difficulty in perceiving reality. So at this junction, I think I want us to do something. Everybody that is listening to me, so just go to the chat box. Go to the chat box as you are listening to me now. I want you to look at your environment where you are and write 5 things that you can see in your environment. Just 5 things you can see in your environment. What you can see in your environment. What you can see in your environment. Just go to the chat box and write those 5 things you can see in your environment. Now, when I get to where we need it, I will talk more on it. A lot of people find it difficult to perceive the reality. They feel delusional, they hallucinate, they hear things, they see things that are not there. They hear things, they see things that are not there. So these are signs of poor mental health. Inability to perceive change in one's feeling. So when you cannot perceive change in your own feeling, it is also a sign of poor mental health state. Let me run. The time is going. Now, the pressure and possibility of adulthood in relation to our mental health. The pressure of adulthood in relation to our mental health. Adulthood often comes with both freedom and responsibility, creating a tug of war that affects our mental health in different ways. That is what I've established before now. It is always a tug of war. It affects how we do things. It is a tug of war. So please, as you are there, write 5 things that you can see around you, 5 things that you can see around you, and drop it on the chat box. Now, some of the common pressure that we experience as an adult, some of the common pressure we experience as an adult. You're working and your workload suddenly increase. You are a student and the academic workload suddenly increased. You're a professional writing professional exam and suddenly syllabus change and there is increase in workload. These are pressures that we experience. Pressure to succeed. You just want to hit that target. You just want to land that customer. You just want to land that client. You want to pass that exam. Those are pressures that we experience. Being at a course that was imposed by parents, you are studying a course, you didn't like it, you don't like it, but because your parents said this is what you must study, you just have to face it. So these are pressure, family conflict. The house is not settled. The father and the mother are always fighting. Husband and wife are always quarreling. There is always conflict everywhere. Family and societal expectation. People expect that because we are the first to study law in our family, they expect you to come out with this particular grade. Because you are the first person that is going to achieve this, because you are a man, because you're a woman, there is expectation from the family and from society. It puts pressure on us. Relationship is also another thing that puts pressure on us. You are a friend to somebody that always want to talk to you at every time. You are so it becomes pressurizing, and as you grow, all this can affect your mental health state. Peer pressure is also there. Financial and economic instability in our country now. This is what all of us are experiencing. Financial and economic instability. We are experiencing it. So it puts pressure on every one of us. Now, when growth, hello, can we hear me? I think my network is lagging. Can anybody respond? Just let me know if you okay. The possibilities are one, growth and self-discovery. Discovery is important. When you are able to self-discover, you have achieved a lot for yourself. Adulthood is a time for learning and unlearning, building self-awareness. So if you are someone that has developed yourself in such a way that you are self-aware of a lot of things, in one way or the other, what you have done for yourself is that when there is change or changes in your habit, easily you can say there is a problem somewhere. Adulthood is the time for you to learn, for you to unlearn some things, and at the same time, you need to build self-awareness, independence, and choices. You are to define what success is. You are to use you yourself are the one that will choose your life and how it unfolds. The prayer will always be there. The prayer has been there before you become an adult, before we get to this stage. We ourselves are the one that will say, okay, this is how I'm going to face this particular challenge when it comes my way. This is how I'm going to, these are the choices I'm going to make when XYZ presents itself. Building support system, very important. Do you have a mentor for yourself? Do you have people that you are accountable to? Do you have friends that are supportive? Do you have a community that you can rely on? Do you have a therapist that you can walk up to at any time? Building a support system for yourself is very key. Mental health empowerment. Empower yourself with various tools that will give you that knowledge that you need as per your mental health, that will open your eyes to every resource that is available for anybody that needs help or whenever you need help. So these are possibilities. These are possibilities. At the stage where we are, one of those questions that we'll be asking ourselves is, how do I manage stress? How do I manage stress? So, stress management is the ability for you to use your time productively and effectively. Two things are standing out. For you to manage stress, you need to manage your time. For you to manage stress, you need to manage your time. And in managing your time, you need to know how to prioritize and you need how to be flexible. One of those things that have been working for me as a person is that in setting my goals, I'm not rigid. They are always flexible. In planning my day, they are always flexible. So set your priorities. What do I need to achieve before what? What is important now? What is less important? Set your priority right. Then it helps you to help you in accomplishing what you have set out to achieve. But if you do not prioritize, you just discover that things are just mixed up. Now, it is important for you to be flexible. Why? Because eventualities can happen. So when they happen, you can move priorities around. You can move priorities around. So be flexible in your time management. And this is an overview of a priority matrix. This is an overview of a priority matrix. Or we have how important the task is, and at the same time, you have how urgent is the task. So if a task is very, very important, highly important, and it is very, very urgent, they are highly important and it is very, very urgent, do it first. That is the action. When they are very, very important and they are very, very urgent, those are the first thing that will be on your list. So when something is very, very important, but the urgency is low, very important, but the urgency is low, they will come next. Immediately you have achieved something that is very important and is very, very urgent. So let's assume that you need to visit a friend because that friend is sick and you have a medication to give the person. That you think you might rate it as very, very important and is very, very urgent. So you might decide to do that one first. You might say, okay, me cooking my meal is very, very important, but not urgent. So you visit the friend first, deliver the medication, then you come back to cook the meal. And the one that is of low importance and high urgency, you do them later. But the one with low importance and low urgency, you don't do them at all. So this is how to prioritize your day. Don't forget, I said time management has two major things. You prioritize and you make sure they are flexible. So what is of great importance? What is the level of urgency? Do them first. What you know that it is very, very important, but not urgent. You do them next. What has low importance but high urgency? You do them later. But what has low importance and low urgency? You don't stress yourself in doing them at all. And this is just how you can find a hobby. How you can find a hobby. You know, for you as a person, you might say that your own hobby is just to relax, and by the time you are relaxing, your relaxation will lead to you enjoying the moment, and enjoying the moment will distress you. If you are stressed, you can decide to enjoy walking. You can decide to take a walk, enjoy it, or go to a movie, to watch a movie, enjoy yourself, and it will relax your nerves. So it's just for you to enjoy the moment. Another thing that you can do to make sure that what you do on a daily basis do not stress you is to set smart goal. I will not really dwell much on it. All of us will know it. Setting smart goal means your goal must state it must be specific. The specific, it must be measurable, it must be attainable, it must be relevant, it must be time bound, there must be deadline set for each of them. So you must set smart goals. Now, for you to take care of your physical health while also taking care of your mental health, these four things are very, very critical and important. Exercise is very, very important. You know, a number of times when you visit the medical doctor, they will tell you that how often do you exercise? Okay, we'll advise you to do more exercise. A number of people have what's it called? High BP, blood pressure, and doctor will say, do exercise. As you are exercising, there is need for you to eat healthy. There's need for you to eat healthy. As you're eating healthy, good food, you need to sleep enough. Then as you sleep enough, for you to know the state of your physical body, you visit the clinic or the medical doctor for regular checkup. And this will help you to stay, to maintain a balance between your physical health and your mental health. Another thing that helps Another thing that helps is what we call mindful exercise. These are mindful exercise. Um, Doing yoga is a mindful exercise. Meditation, it helps you reduce stress and increase your productivity. So when you discover that you are not really focusing, you're not concentrating, you can take some minutes off whatever you are doing and meditate. It calms your nerves, it calms your body and your mind, and you can reduce stress and at the same time increase productivity while you're doing that. It helps you to focus your thoughts. It helps you to focus your thoughts. It helps you to focus your thoughts because while you are relaxing, while you are meditating, your mind is off everything. Your mind is concentrating on one singular thing. On one singular thing. You be at the moment. It helps a lot. Now, earlier, I asked us to write 5 things that we can see around us. Now, why I asked us to do that is this. Because we are listening to me, we cannot see me. A lot of us might be doing many things at the same time. Sometimes when anxiety comes in, anxiety helps you to put your mind on many things at the same time and you start worrying about them. One of the ways to bring back your mind when there are excessive worry is to call back yourself to the present and identify things that are around you. Name things that are around you. Name things that are around you. And that's why I asked earlier that look at your environment and name 5 things. And for you to let me see them on the chat box. 5 things. And I can see that a number of people actually drop those things. So if you see my screen, you will see that there is 5 things you can see. There is 4 things you can feel. So let's do that exercise now. As you are seated or you are standing or you are jogging, listening to me, what are 4 things that you can feel? 4 things that you can feel. As a person as I am like this, what are those things I can feel? I can feel what's it called? I can feel the breeze blowing me. I can feel the table that I'm touching. I can feel the what's it called? The clothes I'm wearing. I can feel it on my skin. What are those things that you can feel? It brings you brings you back to the present. What are the things you can feel? What are the things that you can hear? So when anxiety comes in, you can easily bring back yourself to this exercise and ask yourself, what are those things I can hear at this very moment? What are those things you can hear? Can you hear the honking of the car? Can you hear the oozing of your AC? Can you hear the sound from the television? You can actually hear me speaking from this meeting. You can hear. So what are the things you can smell? What are the things you can smell? You can smell the perfume that you use, the roll-on. You can smell the cream you rub on your body. You can smell the hair freshener in your room. What are those things you can smell? And lastly, what is that one taste that you can feel? What is that one thing that you can taste? So this exercise brings you to the very present moment. It is often used to manage anxiety and panic attacks. It is used to practice mindfulness, and it is mostly used to de-escalate a mental health intervention. As this de-escalation in mental health intervention. So the second exercise is also very, very key and important. We use it also to manage panic attack and anxiety. It is mindful breathing. You know, as because you are living, you are breathing in and breathing out. But this one is not just breathing and breathing out, it is mindful breathing. So I really want us to do this exercise together, because personally I do it a lot. I do it a lot. So all you need to do is to inhale. And when you inhale, count in your mind. You can count with your finger, count 5. After count of 5, you hold your breath, you count 5. After the count of 5, you exhale. Immediately you exhale, you count 5, then you repeat the circle. So I think let's do that together now. After the count of 2, you will inhale. I will count 5. You hold. I will count 5. You exhale. I will count 5. You repeat the circle. If you are ready with me, let's go. 1, 2. Let's inhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Just hold your breath. 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 And exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So when you are experiencing panic attack, when you are experiencing anxiety, you can always practice mindful breathing. It helps you to calm yourself. Do it repeatedly until you see that you are calm enough to move on. Another thing you can always do is to practice journaling. As a person, I do this a lot, is to practice journaling. Gratitude journaling involves writing down things you are thankful for on daily basis or on weekly basis, whether big or small. You know that because we don't keep journals of these little good things that we are thankful for, little good things that is happening to us. It's when we are experiencing a downsize of the world, we feel as if the whole world is on us. But even we are keeping track of all these little good things that we have achieved, that we are thankful for, you will know how much you have achieved. You will know how much you have gone. You know how far you have gone. So keeping a gratitude journal is also another important way that you can be thankful and at the same time to maintain a good mental health. It is not about ignoring challenges. It is about intentionally noticing what is going well, which helps rewire the brain to focus less on stress and more on possibilities. Because you are keeping journals of those little things that you are thankful, little achievement that you have, it will help you to re-engineer and rewire your brain to focus on those things and achieve more, rather than focus on that little error, rather than focus on that little mistakes, rather than focus on that little failure. Reflecting on the good things before bed helps relax your mind. So another thing it helps you with is you're going to have good sleep. At the end of the day, you pick up a journal and you are reading through those little things that you have achieved, those big milestones that you have achieved, that you have written down. They are going to relax your mind. It reduces your attention from what's lacking to what is present. So rather than your attention being focused on what you do not have, it helps you to focus on what you have, and it helps you to build more emotional strength to handle challenges. Now, while I was speaking earlier, I talked about you having a circle of supporters, having friends, family, having community that supports your mental health, because you need to normalize seeking help. There is no crime in saying I need help. There is no crime in saying I need help with my mental health. There is no crime in saying I need to talk to a counselor. I need to talk to a therapist. I need to talk to a mental health service provider. There is no shame there. It is even strength for you to ask. So everyone needs help from time to time, because as we are growing, as we are becoming more adults, things might become more chaotic, that you might find it difficult to manage as a person. But find it overwhelming to manage as an individual. You might need to talk to a professional. You might need to talk to a counselor. You might need to talk to a mental health service provider. And that is why money is always there. We are always available. When you need to talk to us and you feel like it's an emergency situation, you're thinking of suicide, you're thinking of ending your own life, pick your phone and dial our number 0809-111-6264. It's always available. Dial our number. And if it's on social media, you can reach out to us on any platform, any social media platform, on Facebook, on X, on TikTok, on Instagram, on Thread. The handle is the same, at Mentally Aware NG. You need to prioritize. No, now, if you feel like as I'm speaking now, you've looked at where you are, you look at where you've been, and you feel like you need help as you are, you need to talk to somebody, you need to talk to a counselor. All you need to do is to scan this barcode. Just scan the barcode. You can take the screenshot of the barcode and scan it. You can scan it now. This barcode will take you to a form where you're going to fill. And by the time you fill, a counselor will be assigned to you that is going to help you through that journey. You don't need to face it alone. You don't need to face that challenge alone. Mentally Aware Nigeria Initiative is always available. We are closer than you think. We are closer than you than you expect. All you need to do, scan the barcode, give us a call on the number that I've mentioned earlier or on the social media handle, and trust me, we are going to assign a counselor to you that is going to help you. I will rest my case at this junction. Thank you very much for listening. Question and answer from anybody.
Thank you very much for the very informative session. And we really do appreciate your time, Mr. Oguntola. Question and answers will be after we've heard from Mr. Onyekachi. So please, everyone, kindly wait. Let's hear and learn from our second mental health expert, Mr. Onyekachi, and then we'll take question and answers collectively for both Mr. Abiodun and Mr. Onyeka. Briefly introducing Mr. Onyekachi, can we please have the slide up? Mr. Onyekachi Okonkwo is a licensed clinical psychologist, passionate about healing and advocacy, with expertise in trauma, anxiety, and life transitions. He combines evidence-based therapy with cutting-edge research in addiction, childhood disorders, and neurocognitive resilience. Beyond the clinic, he champions mental health accessibility through outreach, policy reform, and public education, believing that mental health is a right, not a privilege. Join me to welcome Mr. Onyeka to lead the next session. Mr. Onyeka, please go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much. I want to appreciate Crecer Africa for creating this opportunity. I also want to appreciate, can you hear me? Am I audible?
Yes, you can hear you.
Okay, I want to appreciate Mr. Abiodun for a very, very wonderful session. It was impactful. I was smiling while I was listening to him. Thank you very much for that. I don't have a slide. I kind of want this to be more of like an interactive session, okay? So we just talk and hopefully we'll get to learn more. So specifically, I will be talking about the nature of stress and then what makes one vulnerable to stress and then protective factors of stress. You see, why I chose this topic, when you contacted me earlier, I kind of like had a conflict where I don't want a situation where after Mr. Abiodun had, given his wonderful session, and then I would come back and, repeat what he said to save time. So I will be just talking about the nature of stress, the components of stress, and possible ways to mitigate stress. Now, have you ever wondered why is it that persons can have similar situations, but then they react differently? Two persons will have similar situations and then they will react differently. And this is something I see very, very often in our therapeutic practice in our teaching hospital where I work. In most cases, you will see an individual with a history of trauma. abuse, like when you take their case history and then you will see signs of childhood trauma, but then they have a healthy psychological adjustment and a healthy psychological well-being. Whereas you could see individuals who are adjusted properly, but then when exposed to minor or little stress, they go through series of nervous breakdown. It is as if they cannot handle the stress that comes with the situation. So this brings me down to, or rather, it all boils down to cognitive appraisal. There's something we talk about in psychology, stimulus response. For every stimulus, there's a response. But then we also fail to account for the organism. If one slaps me, it's not a must that will slap back. Then if someone slaps my neighbor might slap back. There's a reason why our reactions are different, and it all boils down to cognitive appraisal. So the discussion that we'll be doing today, we'll learn how, or rather, it will show us how the psychological, or rather, how our psychological and physiological well-being depends on three important factors. One, our interaction with the environment, or rather, our interaction with the demands that come with our career. Whether you are in the workforce, or whether you are in the academic sector, that I'm talking about the students that are here, whether you're in the academic sector, or whether in the private sector, or whether you're working on your own individual startup, we all face challenges. So we'll be talking about the interaction, how we interact with these demands. Then the second aspect of the nature of stress is the personal and environmental resources we have that will help us cope with these demands. And then the last and most significant aspect of it has to be the vulnerabilities. What makes one vulnerable and susceptible to psychological stress? But before I go, or before I start, you guys can turn on your mic. I would want to hear maybe one or two definitions of stress. When someone says stress, what comes to your mind? I would like to hear your definitions. You can turn on your mic. You don't need to turn on your video. Just tell me your definition of stress when you hear stress. Hello? Hello?
Yes, we're here. If you want to speak, you can raise your
I was
hand.
saying, I would like to hear your definition of stress. Yeah. If you have, just tell me what's your understanding of stress. Okay, I think Allow has something to say.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Olaume and Masha.
If you're having problems speaking, you could type it.
Can you hear me now?
Good morning.
Yeah, I think my network
Yes,
is a
I can.
bit.
Good morning.
Okay, so my own definition of stress, when just like our former speaker was talking about mental health, my own definition of stress is when, I just look in front of me and I have like 1,001 thing to think about, to reason about, to take care of, and particularly maybe work or anything. So when I see maybe a workload and in my head, and I'm like, how can I be faster? How can I do this? Then can I go through everything at once and just get it off the way? That way I'll consider like, oh God, I'm already stressed without even doing anything. Thinking about it alone is making me feel like I am stressed. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. That was very wonderful. Do we have any other definition of stress? Have any other
Can
definition
we
of
please unmute
stress?
Esther? I think she raised her hand.
Okay. Okay.
So good afternoon. My name is Odulaga Esther. Can everyone hear me?
Good afternoon. Okay.
Okay, so I
If I
define
can
stress.
hear you.
Okay. Okay. I'll define stress as anything that like engages in strenuous physical activities, like anything that is making my both my mind and my body work at the same time. It makes me want to just give out and stuff. So yeah, I think that's what I'll define my stress as.
Okay, that was very good. So, in the absence of any other volunteer, I would go on.
I
So,
have
the
I have
first
I
person,
want to volunteer. I
your
think
view on stress, you viewed stress from an ex. Okay, okay,
I think for
okay,
me,
okay, okay, okay. Listen.
stress is a point I get to when maybe I've planned to do a few things and one or two variables are not just working as I pre-planned. So that way I might not have a solution at that time. So I can see that whatever I've planned or the results I want to achieve will be
Okay,
forestalled. So at that point, that's where I start getting stressed.
okay, okay. Thank you all. Thank you all for the wonderful definitions of stress. The first person, you more viewed stress from the external point where you have a large volume of work, and then by looking at it, you already feel overwhelmed, and then you don't want to, or rather, it gives you, or maybe you feel very, very uncomfortable about it, and then you react. So you're viewing stress as a stressor. The second person also viewed stress um, in that same direction. Then Precious, you more of like viewed stress as a reaction to certain situations. All right. Well, to go on to what I'm talking about the nature of stress, psychologists view stress from two different ways. We view stress, one, as a stimulus, and then we view stress as a response. Now, stress as a stimulus could be, you know, events, situations, or things that place huge demand on us. You have work that you have to turn over, and then you are late. You are nearing the deadline, and then you are not done. You have a class assignment that you want to turn over, or you have a 10 paper that you're writing. You are told to write a 10 paper of maybe 10,000 pages, and then you haven't finished up, and you're nearing deadline. That's a form of stressor. So stress as a stimulus, we consider them stressors. And we have to understand that most times when these stressors, when they are greater than the resources we have to manage them, we react to stress. When you have a lot of work to do, but you have minimal time to do that, that's a stress response. So now bringing us down to the second aspect of stress, we view stress as a response. This is where what I spoke earlier about comes in: cognitive appraisal. Every situation we go through in life, every experience we have through in life, it goes through a form of cognitive appraisal. And how we appraise those situations play a huge role on our reactions to stress. Now, under stress as a reaction, there are four domains of appraisal. We have the primary appraisal, we have the secondary appraisal, then we have the appraisal of judgments and consequences. And then the last one is appraisal of psychological meaning. I would explain. When you are being met with a demand, the first form of appraisal you go through is the primary appraisal. This is where you appraise the situation. This is where most people catastrophize. Catastrophize in something that naturally isn't as overwhelming as it is. But then the way they perceive it and the meaning they give it a meaning in such a way that it's as if the person does not do that thing, they will die. I don't know if you get my point. Catastrophizing is something we see very, very well in therapeutic practice. So that's one. And then the second appraisal is the secondary appraisal. In secondary appraisal, what we do now is I've been met with this demand. All right, fine. Do I have the supportive networks to be able to deal with this challenge? Do I have the resources? Do I have the ability? An example is if you are going for a job interview Somebody who is new in the job market at that first point might be nervous because we are talking about building a career and not breaking yourself. The person might be nervous. And then they'll be like, okay, fine. Am I going to pass the interview? At that first point, they've already assessed the situation, the primary appraisal, which is the interview. They're preparing for it. How challenging could it be? Now, the secondary appraisal is where they appraise the resources they have. Do I have the verbal skills? Will I be able to answer the questions as accurately as possible? Will I be able to tackle the themes they're going to ask me? That's the secondary appraisal. And in the secondary appraisal, when you feel that the demands outweigh the resources you have to be able to cope with them, it makes you prone to stress. So at that point, stress is a natural response to the situation, just like what Precious said. That's a secondary appraisal. That's an example, a classic example of a secondary appraisal. Now, the third one is appraisal of judgment and consequences. What consequence, or rather, what judgment or what consequence do you attribute to the secondary appraisal? If you go for the interview, do you think that, or rather, your lack of resources to be able to cope with it, do you think that you would fail? Or do you perceive failure? That's an example of consequence. If you're working on a startup and you don't have a direction, you don't know what to do, you've not created a community, or you feel so overwhelmed, and then you ask yourself, if I start this, I don't want this to be a project that will start and in the next 1 year it will fail. That's an appraisal of consequence. That's also another example of stress. That's also another example of stress when you believe that, sorry, I'm coming. I have something I want to read out. Appraising the consequences of failing. When you appraise the consequences of failing as very costly, it increases the likelihood that you would experience a stressful situation. And then the last one, or the last aspect of the appraisal domains, is the psychological meaning. This psychological meaning is very imperative that we discuss. Most of us, the lives that we live a life of personification of perfection. We have high standards of ourselves. In therapeutic practice, you will meet, most especially students in the medical line, most of them are not receptive to failure. Any amount of failure or distress, they begin to see themselves as worthless. They go through a series of negative emotions and self-criticism because of the meaning that they have attached to the consequence. Some believe that this is what I want. I must get this by so year. I must have gotten the promotion as the director. And then when they don't get that director thing, they begin to feel worthless. And then they go through a series of psychological breakdown and they're no more productive. So this is the fourth aspect of appraisal. We have to understand these appraisals because discussions in these 4 dimensions play a huge vital role in our optimal well-being. When you overestimate the situation, when you catastrophize, when you are being met with a challenge, and then you the meaning, or rather you see it as something that, oh, I can't do well. I can't be able to see this through. I don't think I can solve this problem. That's the primary appraisal. You are prone to stress. Secondary appraisal, when you underestimate the resources you have to deal with these demands. You don't think you have supporting networks. You don't think you have the skills. You don't think you have social skills. You don't think you have communication skills. Most people don't do well because of their perceived insecurities and perceived low self-esteem. Sometimes they feel that they are not as good as their neighbor or someone behind them. And this also plays a very, very vital role in how we perceive stress. Then the third one is exaggeration of consequence. Fine. When you try and fail, does that mean that you are not good enough? No, you're good enough. A critical example is this. Most people go to job interviews and after the interview, they don't call them back. And then they go back home thinking, oh, I wasn't good enough. They picked those who were good. Sometimes those with an external locus of control, we attribute it to external factors Maybe it's nepotism. That wasn't why I wasn't. That was why I wasn't chosen. We all did that. Applying for universities, when you don't get admission, you blame it on tribalism or you blame it on so many things. That's an external locus of control, and then you attribute them as maybe that's the reason why. So when you exaggerate the seriousness of the consequence, you are also prone to psychological distress. And then the last part, irrational beliefs, the meaning. In psychology, in mental health practice, most emotional disturbances, I'm talking about depression, anxiety, and other forms of neurosis, are as a result of irrational beliefs. And that is what CBT is all about, cognitive behavioral therapy. So the first thing you do, you engage with this person, you talk with them. First of all, you identify what is that belief system that they have? What do they believe in? Because that is where the problem is. I want to give you an example. You could bring two individuals right now, and then they would experience the same situation. One person is likely to come out depressed, why the other would not. There's a reason why. And it falls down in their belief system. I must have set certain demands for myself, and then my inability to meet those demands, I see myself as worthless. That's an emotional disturbance. Why the other person? Because he has built himself to the point where he has a very healthy self-efficacy and he understands the growth mindset, will be like, okay, fine, I didn't do well here. This is an opportunity for growth. Where was my mistake? Identify the mistake and work on it. And their next try, they would be better. That person did not experience depression. This is an example of what belief system does in appraising stress. So earlier, before I started, I made some comments on why is it that most people who are resilient enough, regardless of the kind of stressors or stressful situations they have, are still able to maintain an optimal well-being. Why is it so? And why is it that people who live a less stress-free life, they have good emotional regulation and all that, but then in the face of little stress or maybe minor discomfort, they break down. It all boils down to cognitive appraisal. Now I'm going to go over to the second aspect of what I'll be talking about. I'm going to keep this very short so we can go into the question and answers and then possible discussions afterwards. So I'll be discussing some vulnerabilities and protective factors of stress. I don't know if you're familiar with the stress buffering hypothesis. The stress buffering hypothesis basically tells us that stress is capable of inducing psychological imbalance. But however, there's a variable that serves as a buffer to stress. It helps mitigate the adverse effects of stress in our life, and that is social support. Social support is very, very vital. Most people underestimate the importance of social support. Social support is basically, the knowledge that, you can rely on people whenever you have a problem facing you. When you look left, there's someone out there that could give you or be able to give you resources that will help you to manage these problems. Social support could come from your friends, it could come from your family, and it could come from significant others. And there are different aspects of social support. We have instrumental support, where you're working on a project and you feel like you can't do it alone. You could invite a colleague. Okay, I'm not an expert in this area, but I feel like you're knowledgeable enough. We're talking about career development, and networking is key. You can't do it alone. No man is an island of himself. So you bring in a colleague, fine, I need your help with this. Could you, put me through and all that? Most of us are not open to asking for help. Most of us are not open to asking for help, and there's this perceived inferiority complex they feel like or they experience when they ask for help. But you shouldn't, especially the young guys. I say this especially to the young guys listening. In everything you do, always make sure you have a network around you, people you could rely on, people you could go and ask for help when the situation becomes overwhelming enough that you can't deal with them. So we need to create supportive network. Um, uh, I talked about instrumental support. We also have financial support. Most of us have wonderful ideas, wonderful ideas that we can enact, but then because of lack of finance, it's like the goal is not productive. It's not productive. You could seek financial support from friends, and that would help you in your career development, in whatever you're doing. If you're in school as a student, there's nothing wrong in asking. You could ask. The most you can get is no. You could. Another form of support we have is informational support. Informational support. Most of us in the healthcare system, or most of us that want to do a startup. When I wanted to do my startup, my psych ally clinic, that was one thing I battled with the most. I didn't have the information. And because I didn't have the information, I was bitter because I felt like every single thing I was doing wasn't coming back. It wasn't productive. I felt like I was just exhausting myself, putting in resources, but I wasn't following the right step. I wasn't following the right track. It was a moment I had to talk with one of my friends. He had his own startup, and then he told me, like, Kachi, do you have a roadmap? I told him, no, I don't have a roadmap. He was like, sit down. You have a very, very wonderful idea, but you cannot just couple all these things and then think you can actualize all of them in 1 month or 2 months or 3 months. No, you create a roadmap. Okay, fine. I'm working on a startup. What is the first thing I need? I need to create a community. Give it time. From January to March, I have to work on creating a community. At that point, you've minimized the goal. So that time frame, you focus on that specific goal. Then after that time period, and then you move on to the next step in your roadmap. Okay, I've created my community. Fine. What else am I going to do? Okay, integration of these ideas into the healthcare system. And then you start. And after that, you move on to the next step. So you have to understand that social support is very vital. If anything, it is the principal mitigating factor to stress, both stress as a stressor and stress as a response. After social support, another thing I would like to talk about is coping, coping mechanisms, how to cope when we are stressed. Mr. Building mentioned some of the exercises that people can practice to help deal with stress. Grounding exercise. What are 5 things I can see, 4 things I can touch, 3 things I can hear, 2 things I can smell, 2 things I can smell, and 1 thing I can taste. One, I remember a patient once asked me, what is the essence of grounding exercises? What is the essence, or relaxation techniques? What is the essence? Now you have to understand that when you are stressed or when you are anxious, most times the prefrontal cortex is activated. You go through a series of irrational thinking. You're overwhelmed, and you delve into a series of impulsive behavior. You don't think, you don't analyze what you're doing, you just react. And that is not good. The essence of grounding techniques is for you to take control of your nervous system, to calm down. At that moment that you know that, okay, I'm becoming restless, I'm becoming impulsive, I'm bitter, I feel like I'm going haywire. You calm down, relax yourself. What am I saying? You begin to mention. Or if you, there's so many techniques and they all work. You could do mindfulness exercises, you could do relaxation therapies, box breathing exercises, deep breathing exercises, you could do grounding techniques. All of these things work, but you have to understand the reason why you're doing it. If you do not understand the reason why you're doing it, it might not be effective. And that is something that we also have to take cognizance of. Another aspect that I want to talk about is a cognitive protective factor. We talked about belief system and how most of our problems are as a result, or rather, how we appraise most of our situations is dependent on the belief we've attached to it, our belief system. So we need to enhance our coping self-efficacy. What is self-efficacy? Self-efficacy is that belief that you have that you can achieve a set out goal despite the obstacles that you have in front of you. So we could do that. Enhance your coping self-efficacy. That belief that the coping tools you have would be effective in dealing with the demands of your daily life, the demands of your career. the demands of your academics, the demands of your professional growth, and everything that you're doing. And we also should try and learn to be very, very optimistic. All right. Always hope for the future, always hope for the best. You see, I always say this and I will say it again. No man is an island of his own. And if you're going to draw, I like that this is a youth, it's focused on youth empowerment. If you are going to enhance into the journey of professional growth, you have to understand that supportive networks are key. Supportive networks are key. You have to have wide range of supports, information, one, instrumental support, financial support, and also emotional support. Emotional support too is very, very vital. We need to learn how to regulate our emotions and not act on impulse. Most psychological disorders or most mood specific disorders also have impulsive, or rather, when you look at the baseline, part of what is causing that is also impulse because they don't think something just happens, they react, they're impulsive. So you need to learn impulse control. When something happens, think before you react, analyze the situation. It's not garbage in, garbage out, it's not stimulus response. There's an organization that happens here, an appraisal that happens here. And that's what you have to be very, very cognizant about how you interpret these things and the meaning you give to it, because the meaning you give to it would eventually tell if you are going to have an optimal well-being or if you're not going to have an optimal well-being. So I like I said, I try to keep it short and I try to summarize it to keep it to the objectives of the webinar. So that this brings me to the end of our discussion. It's already 12:26, and I know that we still have question and answer sessions. So I will give time for that. For those who are not here, my name is Okonkwo Kachi Osmond. I'm a clinical psychologist. I run my own private clinic, Psych Ally Clinic. At the same time, I also consult with Nnamdi Azikiwe University Teaching Hospital as their resident clinical psychologist. So if you do feel that you want to ask certain questions, or maybe you need skills that you can adapt to help you regulate your emotions and basically anything that is clinically related that you feel like you need information about, you can always reach out to me on that. So thank you very much. And thank you, Crecer Africa, for creating this opportunity where youths can come together and, discuss these issues. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Abiodun, too. So, Precious, I'm giving the floor to you. I'm done with my presentation.
Thank you very much, Mr. Okonkwo, for that very insightful session. So now is our question and answer session. If we have any questions, Hello, can you hear me, Mr. Okonkwo? Can we all hear me?
Yes, I can hear you from here.
Okay, I think it's just something to do with Mr. Okonkwo's network. So we're now moving on to our
I can. Thank you very much.
Okay, we're moving on to our Q&A session. If we have questions at this point, please feel free to share. If you don't want to speak, you can put it in the chat box. And
hear you.
Because
I can hear you.
Our speakers will do their best to answer your questions. Anybody has any question? Please feel free to ask. We're all here to gain better knowledge and insights into how to manage our mental health. So please feel free to ask any questions. And if you don't have any question, if you have maybe
Questions coming in.
if you have a perspective to share, feel free to share it at this time, or an addition, a suggestion. Please feel free to share.
You could ask any question. It mustn't be even if it's not related to the even if it's not related to the topic, you could ask any question. We'll try our best.
Yes, that's correct. In the absence of any questions for now, please feel free to still put it in the chat box if you feel up to it to ask any question, but just so that we save our time and we utilize our time maximally, I would like to introduce our
Put the questions in the chat box.
I think the network is really dealing with us this morning, especially from Onyeka's side. I keep hearing you after you've spoken.
Good afternoon. Can I ask a question? Or good morning, rather. Can I ask a question, please?
Okay, please go ahead.
All right. Thank you very much. My name is Ikechukwu. I'm with a friend, so I'm like speaking through his account. Thank you very much, first, to all our speakers. Very insightful. Can you still hear me, please?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Very insightful nuggets you guys have shared so far, and I'm really grateful for all that I've learned. But I want to ask a question, and it is regarding the, in quotes, the inheritance of mental health issues. My question is, can mental health issues be, in quotes, passed down from father to son, from mother to child or something? Or is it something that is peculiar to just personal experiences of individuals? So if, for example, I struggle with depression, for example, and I struggle with it for a while, is there a case of my mental health issues being something that can be passed to someone? Like, is it something that can be inherited, or is it just something that is based on individual experiences of people? That's my question. Thank you very much again.
Okay, I don't know if I should respond to that or Onyeka should, but I think Onyeka's network is really messing up.
Yes, it is. Please go ahead, Mr. Oguntola.
All right, thank you very much. I quite didn't capture the name of the person that asked that question. But anyway, thank you for the question. And permit me to mention that there are some mental health conditions.
If you want to, you can go if you want to.
Mr. Oyeka, maybe you should be responding to us in the chat because there is a lag of like 5 to 10 seconds from your side. Like I was saying, when it comes to some mental health conditions, the truth is that some of them are what we call hereditary components, which simply means that it can run in the family. When people share the same genes, those hereditary components can actually be present itself in the family. Mental health conditions like bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, this kind, anxiety disorder also, I think they have hereditary components. So if you are if this thing is present or present itself in the parent, it may likely present itself in the offspring. But this is not applicable to every mental health condition. I must say that it is not applicable to every mental health conditions. So that's just a simple answer I want to give to that.
Can you hear me now? I don't know if my voice is rectified.
Maybe if you turn off your video, then.
All right, let me try that. Go on now.
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay. Sorry about that. Maybe it's network. So sorry. Okay, I don't know if you still need my response to the question, or is the person satisfied with Mr. Bildung's response?
I think you can add.
Mr. Biodun gave a very amazing response, but I would love to also hear another perspective.
Okay. Relating to your question about the tendency for mental health conditions to have a hereditary component, right? That's the question. And then you specifically mentioned depression as an example. Well, coming from a psychoanalytical point of view, all right? Psychoanalytical point of view will tell you that most of the mental health illnesses we experience is as a result of our childhood experience. You know, your adulthood life is a reflection of your childhood experience. And for example, I go through a certain aspect of trauma that I wasn't able to resolve. I would experience what they call a fixation. And at the same time, because of that trauma that I've not dealt with, it's going to affect my adult life. And if I should have a child tomorrow, obviously, because of the unresolved trauma that I'm going to have, I would somehow influence the child's experience and upbringing. But that is not to say that the person, or rather that inherent trauma I have, was what passed down from gene to gene. That's an example one. But however, there are psychological disorders that have hereditary components. For example, schizophrenia. Schizophrenia is proposed, or rather, what they say about schizophrenia is that each and every one of us has a tendency to experience schizophrenia, but you just have to be exposed to a certain amount of stress in the environment for that to activate. That's an example. There are other forms of mental illness that are hereditary. Autism spectrum disorder, it is. Some components of psychosis are, but not all. But majorly speaking, neurotic disorders, I mean anxiety, depression, PTSD, they do not have an hereditary component. But you could be prone to it based on your childhood experience and unresolved trauma. I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, it does. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Okonkwo. In the chat box, Oluwashemi Alayande asked, what are the best ways to navigate through stress personally and work-wise? Mr. Oguntola, I think you are best positioned to answer this, in that you gave us the step-by-step ways to navigate stress, and then Mr. Okonkwo can add any points that he wishes to add.
Okay, thank you very much. The question is, again, what are the best ways to navigate stress? I think I get that.
Yes, it is.
Okay. Yeah, I've seen it on the chat box. Personally and work stress. Okay, so let me start by saying that navigating stress sometimes, as you mentioned, personal and work, it will surely require what, as a person, I cherish most, which is self-awareness and boundaries. it's sometimes it's usually difficult to easily navigate between personal life and work life. And of course, most times this aspect of our lives are interwoven. So when it comes to stress associated to each aspect of our life, each personality, each areas of our life, it is more challenging to easily walk around them. And that is why self-awareness and boundaries are very, very important. As I used to advise or tell people that when you set boundaries, it's not that you don't want to be involved. What you are just doing to yourself is you are trying to secure your own health. You are trying to make sure that I am protected on both sides. Now, for personal stress, when you are self-aware of your own emotion, because one of the things that worsens our stress level is denial. Sometimes people will see you and they ask you, are you okay? Are you fine? And you keep saying, I'm fine, where of course you are not fine. So sometimes when we live in denial and we find it difficult to accept what we are feeling at a particular time, it most times worsens the stress we are feeling. You are sad, you are angry, you are confused. The first thing to do is to acknowledge and accept that state of mind, to acknowledge that state you are at that time. You feel overwhelmed, acknowledge that this is how I'm feeling. Then you can start practicing self-cares to overcome whatever that presents itself as a challenge to you at that time. So being self-aware and setting boundaries is very, very important in walking around and overcoming personal stress. When it comes to work stress, setting boundary stand tall for me, because it is difficult for you to say, of course, for people like us that work and our work goes beyond 9 to 5, even at late hours in the evening, sometimes you are still working. And as a person, you have a time that you have set aside as family time, as personal time, as friends time, and you discover that the work you are doing is encroaching into those times that you have actually set aside for a number of things. So if you are a type of person that does not set boundaries, you will discover that even those things that you have actually set in priority, you will find it difficult to achieve them. So set boundaries. If you are somebody that wake up 5 a.m., what are those things you want to achieve between that 5 a.m. and 6 a.m.? And if XYZ happen at that time, will you attend to them, or you focus your energy on that thing you have set out to achieve at that time? So boundary is very, very important. So when you set boundaries, what you are doing to yourself is that you are avoiding bringing home stress to work. You are avoiding bringing work stress to home. You are avoiding bringing personal stress to work, avoiding bringing work stress to personal life. And in one way or the other, it will help you to stay focused in both sides, because it's more like you are two persons in one. You have your work life, you have your personal life. And boundary helps you to live in and be present in each side of the divide. So for me, I would say for you to what's it called? To be able to navigate through personal and work stress, please be self-aware. Know what you are and don't live in denial. Self-aware and set boundaries. Healthy habits also help us in maintaining those stress. Help us to overcome those stress. Helping habits, helping coping skills. And most importantly, external support is very, very important. I've said it during my presentation that you need a community. You need that friend, that family, that group of friends that can support you through thick and any situation of your life. You need that therapy. So external support is also very, very important in navigating both personal and work stress. self-awareness, personal boundary, healthy habits, and external support. Those are the summary I will talk about.
Thank you very much. Mr. Okonkwo, would you like to add something? Mr. Okonkwo, are you still on the webinar? Okay, let's Shemire,
Yes, I am. Yes, I am. I said that's fine. That what he did was okay.
Okay, thank you.
Hear me?
I see Shemire Alayande writing, thank you, sir, in the chat box. Esther, we'll take Esther's question. Can we please unmute Esther so she can ask her question? And then we have another question in the chat box. Mr. Okonkwo, please, you'll be taking the question from Oji Alexander just after we take Esther's question. Esther, please go ahead.
Okay.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
So here this is my question. Okay, so like I struggle with like panic attacks, especially when they are triggered by like financial stress. In these moments, it's really hard for me to like calm myself down because I feel like unless the problem is actually solved, like nothing actually helps me feel better. How do I manage that kind of stress when the situation itself can't be fixed right away?
I think Mr. Okonkwo is best suited for this question too, because he was talking about stress from the stimulus and the reactive perspectives. So, Mr. Okonkwo, please help us.
Yeah. Okay. You said that first. You said you used to have panic attacks, right? And sometimes you find it very difficult to manage. Is that the question? Hello.
Yes. And she was talking about
Okay.
how it is closely tied to whenever
If you
she's
can hear me.
experiencing
Okay.
financial
All right.
difficulties.
Yeah.
Because she's experiencing financial difficulties. Exactly. You see, I talked about the forms of appraisal and our response to it. There's this thing we call emotional tracking. And I would suggest you do that in your quiet time. Whenever you're experiencing this, first of all, why are you experiencing that? You have to identify the belief system. Because if we're going to be honest, therapeutic practice is all about honesty, and you have to be truthful to ourselves. Every person experiences financial difficulties. It's not something unique to one person. But then there's a reason why most people are able to deal with that and most people are not. And it all comes down to self-awareness and your belief system. Why do you think, or rather, what reason or how have you evaluated that your need, that your financial need? That's the first thing you have to identify, first of all. One, and two, you need to learn how to relax. Like I say, when you are experiencing an intense form of anxiety, you go through a series of irrational thinking and decision making. So you need to arrest your nervous system and take control. At that moment, practice relaxation therapies or relaxation techniques, mindfulness, calm yourself down first, because you cannot make a good decision when you are anxious. You cannot make a good decision. And you need to learn to relax, because research has shown that one person cannot be relaxed and anxious at the same time. Both of them, they don't exist side by side. So you need to relax yourself first. Then when you relax yourself, then you'll be able to make good decisions. Do you understand? Look at your supportive networks. What is that thing that you need the money for? What goal are you trying to achieve? How many of your supportive network, how many of your friends around you have also identified with that kind of goal. Who can you link up with? Who can you, invite or, and make the stress lesser for you? I don't know if you get my point. But the first thing you have to do is relax. You have to relax. You cannot solve that problem while you are panicking. You have to relax first. And this is where you practice grounding exercise. What can I see? What can I touch? What can I feel? And all that. If that one doesn't work for you, there are other ranges. There's progressive muscle relaxation where you begin to clench a group of muscles. Just basically just get yourself relaxed. Music too works. Music therapy works for relaxation tech therapy. So maybe try that. But at the same time, I would suggest, I would suggest that you speak with a counselor. Panic disorder is a mental health, is a form of anxiety disorder, and it's not something that someone can navigate alone. You need a coach. So maybe you can identify with money, or if you have, I don't know your location, or if you have any counselors around, I still think that these are things you need to talk about. All right? You need to talk about, learn to manage your emotions, and then you will see the results. But first, practice the relaxation techniques.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Okonkwo. For Esther, if you'd like, we can send you the barcode so that you can reach out to Manny. I'm very sure they'll be able to help.
Okay, I would like that.
Okay, we'll keep that in mind, and we'll do that after the session. Mr. Okonkwo, we have a question from Oji Alexander. It says, please emphasize on the difference between distress and eustress. I don't know what that means. Maybe it's a word in mental health, and how they can influence our mental health.
Okay. This stress and eustress. You see, when we mention the word stress, you have to understand that stress does not mean negative. You get stress can be positive and stress can be negative as well. The positive aspect of stress, that's what we refer to as eustress. While the negative aspect of stress, that is what we refer to as distress. All right. So an example of distress would be workload, work family conflict, where maybe your work life is interfering with your family life, and all that you go through. It makes you feel uncomfortable. You experience burnout, something like toxic illnesses, relationships, and all that. These are the negative aspects of stress. So these ones are distress. Basically, anything that affects your psychological functioning. You can't function psychologically anymore. You can't focus on your work environment. You cannot properly construct sentences. Sometimes you are aloof. You might be working and then you realize that you stared at your system for like 30 minutes without doing anything. That's a negative form of stress. That's distress. But eustress is more of like positive, it's a challenge. It's more of like you're experiencing something challenging, something overwhelming, but it's beneficial. A classic example is maybe a young girl that is preparing for her wedding. I don't know if you get my point. Now, that wedding is an overwhelming event, but then it is beneficial to her. It is exciting. So that's an example of eustress. Mr. Alexander, are you getting me? An example of eustress. And at the end of the day, eustress is more of like it has positive implications on oneself. It increases motivation. If you are somebody that is academic oriented, or maybe you have your dissertation coming up, and then you have to come up and defend your dissertation, and then you'll be granted the PhD certificate. It's something positive. It leads to creativity in life. It's growth. So if I'm experiencing that and I'm navigating through that, that's a form of eustress for me. It's not a distress. Do you understand that?
Um, I understand it. It's for the benefit of those that don't really know the difference. Because I was listening to the earlier definition of stress, and I discovered that their
Alexander,
definition was one-sided. So I wanted you to put an awareness that when it comes to stress, that it involves two sides of stress.
There's the positive aspect of it, this stress. But you know, I kind of kept it specific. We were talking about, you know, not breaking down. So I kind of like delved more on the negative aspect of stress. But there's still the positive aspect of stress, and that is just stress. Basically, anything challenging that will lead to creativity, improvement, growth, resilience, and all that. That's a form of use stress.
Thank you, Mr. Okonkwo, and thank you, Oji Alexander, for the insight to distress and eustress. To be honest, it really brought a lot of things to perspective for me to know that there is a difference between positive stress and negative stress. And positive stress can push you closer to your goals, whereas you need to confront negative stress and, you know, create boundaries, as Mr. Oguntola has emphasized. Would you
Yes.
please let's prioritize our health? Because if you don't make time for your well-being, you'll be forced to make time for your illness, which is 100% correct. So as youth, especially the most important demographic in the Nigerian population, we need to prioritize our health. We need to make time for our well-being, so we are not forced to make time for our illness. And in that sense, we'll be setting ourselves back even much more than the progress we have made in that short period where we have ignored our well-being. More questions are welcomed. If you don't have any more questions, then we need to wrap up this webinar. Thanks. Oji Alexander said, thanks for the clarification and awareness, and thank you to Sir for raising it. We are 4 minutes to the end of our scheduled completion. At this point, I'd like to introduce our Chief Operations Director at Crecer Africa, in the person of Olushola Kende. He will be taking the concluding part of this session. Kende, you have the floor, please.
Thank you so much, Precious, for such a great job you've done thus far. Would like to sincerely thank and appreciate everyone on the call, particularly our speakers, Mr. Abiodun Oguntola and Mr. Onyekachi Okonkwo. Thank you for sharing this valuable insight with us. Thank you so much for your expertise, for the stories you've shared, the encouragement. Thank you for sharing your time generally with us. You've helped us, particularly in breaking the mental health stigma. Thank you for helping us with this open dialogue. And thus far, you've empowered young minds, to prioritize mental wellness. So would like to sincerely appreciate you, Mr. Abiodun Oguntola and Mr. Onyekachi Okonkwo. Thank you so much for inspiring us today. Would also like to thank the participants, all our attendees on the call. I'm sure that you've gleaned a couple of insights, and you know what to do, regarding mental health. You know what not to do, going forward. Thank you for your enthusiasm. Thank you for engaging. Thank you for asking questions. Thank you for your willingness and, openness to learn. Most times when people hear things about mental health, the kind of stigma it conflicts in this part of the world, it will say that a lot of people do not want, to have anything to do around that. But for you to, join us on this call today, it demonstrates that you are open and willing to learn. And so we appreciate you. Would also want to thank the volunteers on the call, the Crecer Africa team, everyone that has worked, tirelessly to put this together. And then if you're asking how to, stay connected with us, if you just look at the screen, you would see that we have some of our our contact and our information, our website is crecerafrica.org, and our email address is info@crecerafrica.org. You can connect with us on our social media platforms, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook. We are at Crecer Africa on all our social media platforms. After the webinar today, you're going to get a feedback form via email. So we'd like you to please just check your mailboxes. Look out for the mail from Crecer Africa. We'd just like to get your thoughts, as to how we've performed with this webinar. We'd like to know how to serve you better, in the future editions of our webinar. So please, we'd like you to check out your mailboxes and give us your feedback via the form that would have been shared. Yeah, so we also encourage you to just stay in touch with us. If you gained one or two insights from today's webinar, we can assure you that there's more from where this came from. So we'd like you to just stay in touch with us so that you can, also get more benefits and a lot of more insights and opportunities, even as we share them across our socials. Thank you so much once again, our speakers. Thank you, everyone, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you, Precious. Thank you all.